It's time to take a stand and stop the sexualization of our children. Action for Canada has created a notice of liability to assist you. The title of this NOL is Facilitating an Exposure of Minors to Sexually Explicit Educational Resources, Activities, and/or Events. The United Nations has mandated that all member nations implement the Comprehensive Sexuality Education Resource. CSE is a learning platform that was developed within the context of a program developed by UNESCO. This so-called resource sexualizes children at the earliest ages possible, and it's no surprise that it's causing great harm to our children, as well as attacking the traditional family unit. According to Section 163.1 and Section 152 of the Criminal Code, as well as the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, it's a criminal offence to sexualize and exploit children. Here at Action for Canada, we've been working to expose this evil agenda and to empower parents, grandparents, and concerned citizens to take a courageous stand. In an effort to assist you, we've created a page on our website where you will find an incredible assortment of information on this issue, including the various programs that have been introduced into our schools. Beyond the Basics is the resource used in Nova Scotia, WIN Sex Ed is used in Ontario, CSE is used in Manitoba, and SOGI 123 is used by the rest of the provinces. By introducing these programs into our educational system, our children and youth are being exposed to sexually explicit pornographic materials in the form of books, magazines, and comic strips. Our kids are also encouraged to become members of organizations that promote sexually deviant behavior and the exploitation of minors. Be sure to take advantage of this notice of liability, which will advise teachers, librarians, trustees, ministers, etc., that they will be held personally liable for exposing minors to any form of pornography or sexually explicit material, as well as any activities or organizations promoting sexual deviancy and the exploitation of minors. By using this valuable NOL, you have the ability to demand that the CSE learning resources be immediately and completely removed from libraries and the education system. That all of the books listed, including titles by the same authors, be immediately removed, and that all educational facilities, including libraries, cease and desist promotion of any and all activities, including performers and clubs that exploit our innocent, impressionable, and vulnerable children and youth. Knowing is not enough. You must take action. Here are some powerful actions you can take to protect our youth, no matter your age or station in life. Pull your children out of public schools and universities. Run, facilitate, join, or help with a homeschool group. Get involved in writing letters and serving notices of liability. Run for office as a school board trustee, mayor, or city councillor. Connect with an Action for Canada chapter near you. We cannot ignore this message. Our children and youth are being subjected to twisted ideologies using social justice as a means to indoctrinate and groom them, and we must protect them. Thank you for taking a stand to protect kids. If you like what we're doing at Action for Canada, please consider making a donation to support our ongoing work. And be sure to join a chapter near you. God bless you, and God bless Canada.
Well, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. I was away last week. It felt a little odd not to have an Empower Hour, but we are working so hard in the background for Canadians. So thanks for joining us tonight. This is an important Empower Hour topic tonight. I can't express that enough. And my hope is that it will effectively, I'm using the term effectively, motivate more citizens to get engaged at the community level on behalf of our children. But first, I want to thank our donors who faithfully support Action for Canada in the critical work we're doing on behalf of Canadians and for our future generations. We can't do this work without you. I'm going to start tonight with the program with a brief overview of the trip to Washington, D.C. If you did not see the Empower Hour live from D.C., I highly encourage you to do so. You will be inspired as you listen to our allies from around the world who are fighting the exact same battle in their countries, and working together with them and spending time with them has had such an incredible impact for myself. And the fact that, we're constantly in communication together and seeing what each leader has gone back to their country and what actions they're beginning to take after our trip to Washington and walking down the great halls of Congress and the Senate. So this is definitely a global agenda to sexualize our children from the earliest age and to use them as agents of change. Yes, that's a real term that the WEF and the United Nations and the World Health Organization are using regarding our children, is using them as agents of change. The Washington trip was a great success in advancing our campaign to protect our children and overturn sex education that is rooted in the sexual abuse of children. I joined our international advocates, including Audrey Werner and Rhonda Miller of Texas, in lobbying U.S. officials to retable the bill H.R. 2749. And if you'll remember, a couple of weeks ago, I had Audrey Werner on in just to discuss that bill and to do a deep dive into Alfred Kinsey. And Rhonda Miller will be coming on the show in 2 weeks. So to retable this legislation calling for an investigation into Kinsey, whose deeply flawed so-called research and documented abuse of children laid the groundwork for today's sexualized education agenda. Together, we are confronting those who have used trusted institutions to advance radical sexual activism that targets our children. I was also successful in addressing matters of national security and connecting with allies in the U.S. as we battle against a common enemy who is infiltrating our borders, government, and society at large. And I think you know who they are. There will be more on this in the future, but I just could not believe, and I just thanked God for the opportunity to be there and specific opportunities to meet individuals that were directly associated with the White House. It was a real godsend, and the trip alone, like I can't repeat enough how much I thank our donors for making this possible for us to be able to go and do this work. Tonight, Jay Pelko is, he's our Windsor A4C chapter leader, and he's the founder of cheerfully.ca. He will be the special guest on tonight who is going to support what I hope will be a campaign tonight to really ignite and influence citizens across the nation, our viewers, to get more actively involved in that community level. When you see tonight what is going on with our children in the school systems and how what should be trusted elected officials as trustees, how they're using these positions to advance their personal activism. So we're going to inform you of a newly filed human rights complaint against the Greater Essex County School Board on the basis of religious creed. I've long declared that the amendment to the Human Rights Code to include gender identity and gender expression does not trump the existing human rights that are immutable, innate, inherent, and unchanging. The amendment to include gender identity and expression must be rescinded because, in contrast, it is ever-changing. And it is unreasonable to expect society to ignore reality to support someone's delusions, and especially when they are targeting our children and filling their heads with unscientific political propaganda. I say enough is enough. I will be providing a powerful new resource on the constitutional framework on parental rights, equipping Canadians with the knowledge to counter government overreach and defend their families. Knowledge is power, and every parent must take the necessary steps to educate themselves and stand firm in this ideological battle for our children's hearts and minds. I'll share my screen now, and I also have additional updates on our legal actions. And as I've consistently said, Action for Canada is not a platform to merely inform you of the much facilitated attack against Canadians and our democracy. We are here to provide solutions and take action. So I'm going to just share my screen right now. And like I say, I hope you're going to be encouraged and motivated tonight. So let me just get busy here. I always, if you're new to Action for Canada, then this is a look at what we look like across the country. I'm going to make an appeal to our viewers tonight as well, that if you are feeling motivated to become a chapter leader, if you go to join, you'll see A4C chapters in the drop down. And then as you scroll down, there will be the option for you to connect and to just even inquire, to sign up, and somebody will get in touch with you to see if it's a good match, just to inform you of what it entails to be a chapter leader in your community. We have an amazing international team that is here to support you. We have provincial leaders that help to oversee the chapter leaders as well. So you wouldn't be working alone. We completely facilitate you and help you with all the resources needed to get that going within your community. And when you see what's going on tonight, you can see how effective it is. All right, with the 2 ongoing legal actions that we have right now, while I was in Washington, I had a call from Lee Turner advising me that the case with Tyson Cook, remember he's the drag queen that is also an EA, but he created all those videos, his creative design. He had videos that he created where he was murdering people and chopping them up and eating them and feeding them to his pig. It's really nasty, but if you haven't heard about this, just go to our website and you can look up Tyson Cook and get some of those details. So he's not only an education assistant in the Kelowna School District, but he also works for Autism BC. And we had just merely asked that his position be reassessed for his suitability. And that has created a storm. This happened back in 2023, and then in December it started in January of 2023, and then in December of 2024, there was a letter from his lawyers demanding that we take the information about him down on our website. And we said, no, this is a matter of public interest, and that we had reasons to be concerned. And in April, we provided a 25-page affidavit with nearly 200 pages worth of evidence showing what this individual is doing on his spare time, in his spare time. So we were intended, once we filed a SLAP application in September, then we were headed to court what we thought was going to be the week of December 8th, but Tyson Cook's lawyers have said they're not available that week, so we're looking for a date in the new year. Also, when I was returning from Washington, that's almost 2 weeks ago, on the Thursday, I met with Rocco. We had a great meeting, great conversation, and as it turns out, after our meeting, I get in the car and we were determining, like, oh, will you be attending by Zoom or will he be in Vancouver in person? And it ends up that I get in the car and he calls me. He says, guess what? I just heard from the courts that the lawyers are on strike. And I said, what do you mean? Lawyers can't go on strike, but the association was on strike. And so we were supposed to be on court on the 20th to address the motion to strike. And now we are looking at a date in January. And interestingly, they agreed to mediation prior to the 20th, but that still meant that we weren't going to make it to court. So I don't know if this was just by chance or by design. I do know that they really don't want us in court. You may have heard about Kip Warner's case being thrown out by the judge. They said the case is moot. He was trying to put forward a case regarding like a class action lawsuit, and the judge said that it was basically moot. But our case is not moot. They can't determine that it's moot because we have a nurse who is one of our plaintiffs, and they're still being mandated in BC to take the jab. So Bonnie Henry is still on full-on COVID-19 fraud, and it's a very evil and dark agenda that's attacking citizens here in BC and in places across the country because they're saying, hey, it's flu season. Don't forget to get your COVID shot. These people belong in jail, and I'll continue to say that. And I can't wait to get in court and have this matter actually argued in a place. It's going to look very bad on the judges if they don't move forward with this case. But as I said, back in 2020, when I was praying about whether or not to do this case, I was just like, holy smokes, Lord, like this is huge. What do I do with this? And God said, just pursue justice and I'm going to meet you in the court. So I'm counting on that. So please keep praying because justice would be sweet. All right. This was the video I was referring to that if you had missed it, I really encourage you to go look at this. I'm just noticing that we've got 5 thumbs down. We used to get hundreds of thousands of views on our Rumble, and now we're down to a matter of thousands. We don't know how we're being censored, but we have very important topics. We always have solutions. And so it's really important for you to join Action for Canada on our Rumble page. If you could please register for that and then give us a thumbs up. Because there are those that are working against us trying to affect our algorithms. And you can imagine we're going after Alfred Kinsey. And I mean, once we discredit him and his work that criminally, he abused children, there was pedophiles involved and prostitutes. And this is what's undergirding sex education in our school system. So it is not a surprise that this is a threat to the global agenda. I call the United Nations Pedophile Central because they are the one pushing this agenda. Now, under current issues, if you go onto this page, there's going to be a couple of links that I'm going to share. One on homeschooling, one on the political LGBTQ activism. I just wanted you to know where to get these resources as Jay is going to be coming on the show. And I can't wait to have this conversation with him. It's going to be really good, but you're going to want to learn more. And you're going to maybe possibly say, I can't keep my kids in the school system. And this is like 911, the school is on fire. What do I do? Well, go to our homeschooling page, and at the top of it, you can find incredible homeschooling associations that we have vetted. And just get connected and then find people in your community that you can possibly homeschool together with. Because you may have gifts and talents and you're saying, well, I'm horrible at science or I'm not a great writer, but maybe you're great at home ec. Maybe you're fantastic at teaching kids how to bake because, that is something they need to know for the future. And dads, you can be teaching about something like oil changes and how to work on cars for both the boys and the gals. There's nothing wrong with girls knowing how to do an oil change. I fully support that. And then if you're somebody that is viewing today, if you're one of our viewers and you happen to be in the LGBTQ community and you're scrutinizing us tonight, I would just really encourage you to go to our LGBTQ page and click here to find hope and inspiration. Because you know what? Maybe you're unsettled in your spirit and you're like, this lifestyle is causing you a lot of grief and you need some hope. Well, we have people on this page who were once captured in the LGBTQ ideologies and God released them. And they have fantastic testimonies, and I believe that they could minister to your heart. All right, this is the new parental resource, and I debated, will I not read this tonight? But I think I'm going to, because there's a verse in the Bible that goes that for lack of knowledge, people perish. And during COVID, isn't that exactly what happened? People did not know what their rights were. So they were all walking around like a bunch of slaves with a mask on their face. They were standing, on the little footprints, 6 feet apart at the bank and the grocery store. And I was just sitting there like feeling, I don't know. It was a mix of emotions. One was feeling sorry for people and then being very frustrated with them and, thinking we got to do something about this. So Action for Canada was out there educating them on what their rights were. And more and more and more Canadians started to take a stand to rip off the masks, not care about, standing on those little dots and then having great conversations with other people to question what the government was doing. Well, we really need to do that that with parenting as well. They are running roughshod over parents. They are trying to destroy parental rights so they can have full-on access to our children. And you are the only thing standing in the way. So once you know your rights, I believe it will embolden you, and then you will be more courageous than ever, and you will be more equipped to protect your children. So in Canada, parental rights predate the state and arises from natural and divine law. The right of parents to educate, guide, and protect their children is enshrined in our Constitution, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the law, and the biblical foundations of our nation. Canada's constitutional framework is rooted in the supremacy of God and the rule of law, as declared in the preamble to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This foundational statement is not merely symbolic, it defines the moral and legal hierarchy upon which our democracy was built. Rights and freedoms in Canada flow from a higher authority than the state itself. They are endowed by the God of the Bible, whose moral law undergirds our common law, constitution, and the very principles of justice and liberty. Our system of governance is therefore accountable not to secular ideology, but to the divine moral order revealed through Scripture. The same truth that inspired the Magna Carta, guided the Coronation Oath, and shaped Canada's founding institutions. This inheritance is deeply woven into our constitutional fabric. The Magna Carta of 1215 established that rulers are subject to law and that families, individuals, and property are protected from arbitrary interference. Canada's constitutional monarchy carries forward that principle. Under the Coronation Oath Act of 1688, every sovereign, including the current monarch, swears to maintain the laws of God and the true profession of the gospel. Because all governing authority in Canada derives from the Crown, this oath permanently integrates the moral law of God into the foundation of Canadian governance. Every minister, judge, and public servant acts under delegated authority from that Crown, and therefore bears responsibility to uphold his sacred trust. In Canadian law, parents possess both the right and the duty to direct their children's moral and intellectual formation. This right predates the state and arises from natural and divine law. I can't emphasize that enough. The Supreme Court of Canada affirmed that in R versus Jones, recognizing that freedom of religion includes a parent's right to educate children according to conscience and moral conviction, subject only to reasonable limits. In Adler versus Ontario, the Supreme Court confirmed that Canada's public education system is constitutionally anchored in its Christian denominational roots. The court held that Section 93 of the Constitution Act 1867 entrenched denominational education rights as part of this historical compromise of confederation, reflecting the Christian foundation of Canada's identity. Chief Justice Lamer clarified that this provision was not a general guarantee for all religions, but a specific constitutional recognition of the country's Christian denominational heritage. The ruling thus confirmed that Canada's publicly funded education system is constitutionally anchored in its Christian structural inheritance. Other faith-based schools may operate privately, but they do not share this constitutional guarantee. Scriptures affirm that parents are entrusted by God with the responsibility for the moral and spiritual upbringing of their children. Deuteronomy 6:6-7 commands parents to impress God's truths upon their children. Proverbs 22:6 instructs, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Ephesians 6:4 directs fathers to bring up their children in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. These passages make it clear that parental authority is a divine commission, not a state privilege. Governments and educational institutions exist to safeguard, not replace that sacred duty. Our Charter's recognition of the supremacy of God, the Coronation Oath's commitment to maintain his law, and centuries of legal tradition all establish a clear moral hierarchy. God's law is supreme. The rule of law expresses that divine justice. The family under parental authority is the cornerstone of moral and educational formation, and the state serves as protector of this divine and constitutional order. Any attempt by government or educational authorities to diminish or override the parental role in a child's moral, cultural, or educational formation not only contradicts the biblical order, but undermines the very constitutional foundation upon which Canada was built. The family is the first institution ordained by God. Parental rights are sacred, inalienable, and recognized by law as God-given. To subordinate parents to the state in matters of faith, morality, or education stands in direct opposition to both the rule of law and the sovereign moral order that defines Canada as a nation under the God of the Bible. And then I make a bold statement. Canada's children need defenders, not bystanders. This is a moment for every patriot and parent to act. And I just appeal to you to do so. Now, a couple of headlines, and then I'll bring Jay on. This is from the newly appointed Minister of Education in Ontario. And he has said in a letter, it says here clearly, to parents, thank you for your ongoing commitment to your children's education. Your encouragement and involvement are essential, and you deserve to have confidence that decisions being made are always with your child's best interests in mind. If you look up any former education minister as well, you can pretty much guarantee that they're talking about parental rights and how essential it is for them to be involved in their children's education. So why is this? Why is it happening across Ontario and Canada that these school board activists are asserting unconstitutional policies that are violating parental rights and harming our children? Action for Canada is no stranger to this. Again, if you're new to Action for Canada, you need to look back through our history, and you can see that we've been on the front line of this battle for quite some time. We've stood up against the Chilliwack School Board, and we have been censored and maligned in our characters. And it has been very troubling to find out once again after another election that some of these individuals were re-elected. How is this happening? How can we, as Canadian citizens, make a difference? Are our churches involved? Are they encouraging citizens to get involved in these local elections? Are they encouraging citizens to run as elected officials? There was just an election in Calgary, and the mayor that would be the mayor of choice was a lady named Tanya, and she had lost by about 550 votes. That's about the size of a church. This shouldn't be happening in this day and age while we're facing such an attack by this globalist cabal. Again, in Mission, Action for Canada, they tried to ban us and censor us because we were in one of their delegations where we presented the books and we showed the images of the books. And of course, the headline is in the next day was literally that we were banned for showing a graphic slideshow. Isn't that interesting? But it's okay to have all of this graphic material in the schools. Now, what I'm going to do at this point, talking of censorship, Jay is going to be coming on, and I'm not going to be coming back on and sharing my screen, but it says speakers list cut from Greater Essex County District School Board meetings. One of the trustees ends up saying, we need to remember that this is a business meeting that's held in public. It's not a public meeting with an open mic. I think it's time that we get back to focusing on what we're here to do. And that's student success, and get back on track and do what we're supposed to be doing without some negativity coming in. And so the negativity, you're going to see that firsthand as we play some clips of all the negativity that Jay apparently has been spewing at these school board meetings. And it's actually it's gobsmacking. I just have no words for what they consider hate and disturbing content and a threat to the school board trustees. So in February, I'm sorry, I can't remember, we put out a call to action. Jay is going to be talking about this against the regulation RAD 65, which was going to allow student changes to names, gender, and pronouns gender cross-dressing at school, males in female washrooms and change rooms, males in female sports, principals and teachers keeping secrets from the parents. Isn't that just the kind of policy that you want passed when, you're not showing up at these meetings and doing what this stellar group in Windsor has been doing? It's Beth, Jay, and Selena. And I'm telling you, I am so grateful for all of them and the work that they've been doing pressing against this radical school board. This isn't another reason why we're standing on the front lines. In BC, Canadian school accused of secretly transitioning 8-year-old boy without parents' consent. This is not a standalone. This is happening across Canada. And so, Jay, I'm just going to bring Jay on right now. I'll stop sharing screen. Oh, where are you? There you are. Okay. Jay, thank you so much. I know it took a little longer to set this all up tonight, but I want our viewers, again, to kind of have that fire reignited under them to say, look, I'm showing you we've been working on this not since 2023. I've been in this battle since 2016, 2017, trying to raise, the warning bells saying they're coming for our kids in the school system. And they are undermining parents' authority. They're confusing our children. And so, with Action for Canada chapters, we thought this is one way to fight back in the community. But for some reason, I am finding that the public engagement is less than what it was a year ago or even 2 years ago. And I don't know why that fire has gone out, but it needs to be rekindled, Jay. And I'm bringing you on tonight to start that fire again because they're going to be very inspired by you. So, welcome, sir, to the show.
Hope so. Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate
Yes.
it. It's good
Yeah.
to be
So
here.
it is really good to have you here, and it's going to be interesting to see as we play these clips. But I want to start
Mhm.
by talking about the recent um, human rights complaint that you have filed against Essex County. So can you fill our viewers in a little bit on that?
Yes. So with the help of yourself and your initiative in this, and then encouraging working with Freedom's Advocate, Randy Crossan, they're at freedomsadvocate.ca,
Hmm.
FREEDOMS advocate.ca. And you can look up there the news release, the case description. We'll work with them, and then the lawyers, Kristen Nicholson. So on September 16th, we actually filed the application to the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, and it was for them denying me my request to speak on faith and the GECDSB. So initially they said, well, what are you talking about? Sometimes they'll ask for more information, sometimes not. This time they did, kind of expected. So I said, well, I just want to talk about how your regulations and your policies affect people of faith in Windsor, Essex. And they said, well, no, we're not really. That's not what we do. We're not non-denominational, and we're secular, and so we are not informed by things having to do with, say, Christian faith. And so I said, well, but you have Christians in your constituency. These are people who their kids are attending your schools. These are parents in your ridings who your trustees are answerable to. How could you not want to hear from them? So they just stopped responding to me. So ultimately, in the end, I said, am I right in my understanding that you're discriminating against me for my religion and my creed? And I think God wanted me to kind of put that paragraph in there as that last email just to ensure that they knew that I knew what they were doing. And so in the end, again, with your help and Randy and Krista, we were able to file that application. And yeah, we're saying that this is not acceptable. And that's, as you have said, we need to be more on the offense. Christians tend to be defensive, or perhaps not even defensive, maybe just completely apathetic.
Hmm.
And I say that recognizing that I've had some of that in my life as well. We all have, but we do need to go on the offense and stop taking it. And we act as if it's the bully, who just keeps taking our lunch. But if we're nice to them, they'll stop taking our lunch. That's not how bullies work. And as we get on and talk about some of the trustees and the experiences that I've had at the GECDSB, along with Selena, Beth, and others who have gone and spoken, you will see what type of people they are
Hmm.
who have been elected, but who are completely disrespectful and unfit to serve as public representatives. They are. I don't say that lightly. I say that knowing full well who it is I've been speaking to and have spoken to and have dealt with over these years. They are unfit to serve. And that's just the reality of it all. If you don't know how to help children honor their parents and actually lead them to lie to them,
Hmm.
you just have no business being a school board trustee. It's a
Well,
non-starter.
right. And as I set up in the new parental resource, and why parents, even if they're not Christian, they should be embracing our Christian roots, because the Bible is very clear. It made the top 10
Yeah,
commandments to say, children, honor your father and your mother. And it's the only commandment with a promise that says, and it will go well with you.
yeah.
So they're not only disrupting the relationship between parents and children, but they're robbing children of future blessings in honoring their parents. And it has been a very sinister agenda to break down the family unit and societal norms. And that's why it's a 911 to get as many Canadians across Canada to sign up with Action for Canada. You are modeling what is to be done at the local level, and how you can continue to press in and apply pressure to these school boards, because these are no longer, they're not traditional school boards. These people that have been elected, and I truly, other than activism and the activist side of it, making sure that they have their tribe showing up to elect these individuals and outnumbering us. And that's why I'm saying the churches need to get involved, and Canadians need to wake up. You need to take the responsibility to find out who these people are and elect them, because currently it's an epidemic across the country. We have activists currently sitting on the boards that are advancing a political, LGBTQ is political, make no mistake about it. And they're advancing this political agenda at the school board level and censoring
Mhm.
anybody that would oppose them. And so on that, Jay, do
Yeah.
you have something further to add, or do you want to go to that
Oh,
first
just something
clip?
real quick. I would say
Yeah, yeah,
you're
for
right. It
sure.
is it is political. The Ron LeClaire ran as an NDP in a provincial election that I also ran in, and also Gail Hatfield, her husband Percy Hatfield, also NDP. And when the first article came out about what was happening, we were telling them they called us book activists, but we're not book activists. We're good with books that are good. We just have a problem with books that are pornographic for kids, whether it's written or if it's visual. And so yeah, they have definitely a political, we'll say, line on what they are actually trying to achieve. But I would actually say, and I wanted to say this when I was going to speak on faith in GCDSB before I was, when I was denied, was, one thing that we should say too and recognize is that their religion is humanism. They believe that they are
Hmm.
the ones who get to define morality. And they don't want to acknowledge that, but they do want, and they did prior to there's a 1 million March for Kids that we did in 23. I know wasn't very supportive, but I will just say that there was, I'll put it this way, there was a lot of support, we'll say, against what they were doing. I'll put it that way.
Hmm.
But they're causing, they wanted kids prior to that show of support, 1,000. They wanted kids to basically bend the knee and bow the head to the pride flag. They told them that in the morning, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to do it. And you're going to respect what we say that you need to respect. But the kids are like, what are we doing? So after the board, I'm getting at is that the board responded to the opposition and they backed off in the following
Hmm.
year. So
Hmm.
you won't get the satisfaction of oh, we're so sorry, parents. We didn't realize that we were dishonoring you. They're not going to come out and do that, but they do respond to the pressure, and
Yeah.
that did happen in the next year. They backed off on some of the forced training, the videos on the PD days, these type of things that I've heard from the teachers. So it does work. It is effective, and we just have to realize what success is. And sometimes it's a turning. It takes time. We didn't get here overnight. It's been a decade slide. So just
Hmm.
want to add that.
Yeah, it's been decades and decades in the making that these Marxists have been collaborating. I was watching a video of a woman down in the States who declared she's a Marxist, and that they have been infiltrating the school systems as teachers, counselors, and just encouraging people to do that. And so yeah, they've had a bit of a lead on us, but because it's so egregious and so evil, that I think we can turn it around faster. And we're doing that by a landslide. They're losing grip and they realize that, and we're not going to stop until this is done. So let's play the first clip. This was May 21st of 2024, and you were addressing the Education Act, and we'll talk a little bit about this speakers list and how they are really working at that point and leading up to October in really hammering it down and censoring you with the final nail in the coffin by prohibiting individuals to come and even speak. So Trenzia, would you play that clip, please?
No moral values carry weight past the front door. The height of virtue is to be nice and unoffensive. And how is this peace plan unfolded? An assault has been made on the identity and biology of children, and no one can protest.
Ms. Hamilton, please speak to the Education Act.
No.
Speak specifically.
Specifically, I will elaborate on the bullying. School libraries are filled with cross-dressing, flexible pronoun, transgender books written for kindergarten to grade.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hamilton, you signed up to speak on the Education Act, and I need you to stick to the topic that you've requested to come and speak on. So you wanted to speak to the legislation? You can
Point
do that.
of order. Point of order.
There is no point of order under the speaker's list. Thank you.
I challenge your rules.
Please allow me to continue. Thank you. The system has become a bully and the minority have become tyrants. The Ontario Human Rights Code outlines that every person has the right to equal treatment, and I have yet to see the Christian flag on a school flagpole. This country was founded on Christian principles. The Bill of...
I'm sorry, Ms. Hamilton. I'm not going to allow you to continue because you've defied me several times now on what you signed up to speak about. So thank you.
Point of order.
Thank you for
I
your
challenge.
message.
Chair, point of order. I challenge your decision. Yeah, I think it's regarding the rules, the laws of the.
You need a second to challenge the chair. Do we have a seconder to challenge the chair? No second to fails.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Thank you. Please, sorry, security. No, Mr. Palco, I'm going to give you the same warning as I gave the previous speaker. Last time we gave you a great deal of leeway on the topic that you signed up to speak about, and then you went way off to that. So excuse me, but there's nothing in the Education Act that allows for a speakers list. You're here because the trustees chose to allow a speakers list at our board meetings. That's our choice. Sorry. You have 5 minutes to speak on the Education Act, which is what you signed up to speak on.
Good evening, trustees, administration, all in at the gallery and online. My name is Jeremy Pellico. I'm a Christian father, engineer, advocate, and Sunday school teacher, where I have a glimpse into the privileges and challenges of teaching and upholding the public trust. When a sensitive subject arises that I'm not sure is age appropriate, who do you think I defer to?
Mr. Palco? No. Security? I'm sorry, Mr. Palco. I'll ask you to leave.
Point of order.
And I'm going to request a recess and ask the trustees to relocate. Now, thank you. We're now recessed.
All right. So how are you feeling to the viewers? Like, how's everybody feeling watching this going on? Have you gone to a school board meeting? Have you stood up and opposed the radical agendas that they're passing and ignoring actually what the Education Act says? So that was Selena. She was a former chapter leader with Action for Canada, and Beth, I saw, was sitting over her right shoulder, and Beth had run for the Christian Heritage Party. I mean, these people are doing everything they can in this community to try to bring about change, but they need more support in order to get it done. Elections are one of the key ways of overturning these individuals and getting them removed. I've never seen such a stone-faced group of people as when I go to to a school board trustee meeting where radical activists are sitting behind the mic with their little power button to shut you off. And I went through that here in Chilliwack, Jay, so I completely know how you feel. So tell us a little bit, fill us about about that moment and what was going on there.
I think what's interesting first is that we are not a threat to them in any way physically. There's no violence, there's no threats that has been ever made. It's only their pride and their ego that take the shots, and they can't take that. They are so fragile, and so they shut you down. And like you said, they like to censor, and we see that all across our government, and how they want to shut us down. They don't want to hear from people, God-fearing people who are Christian, who actually have a that are share our worldview. And so they're very fragile. They didn't like that, and you can see when Selena was speaking, she was speaking very, I would just say, cordially, professionally to them. There's no viciousness in what she was saying, but it was the words that she was using. She was calling them out very specifically on what they are doing, and she was speaking to the Education Act, because the Education Act says that you have to ensure student achievement, uphold the public confidence, and there needs to be fiscal responsibility. Things that you would say, hey, these are basics. Like, if you can't do that, just go find something else to do. And I've told them that basically in so many words. So that's what was going on. And so when I went up to speak, I knew what I was going to say. I knew I was going to get shut down. And frankly, you can see I was bothered by what they did to Selena. And so I was like, go ahead, shut me down, but I'm going to at least get a few words in here. And that's who they are. They are fragile. They cannot take criticism. They can't have an open discussion. And I'm not saying that, I'm there to attack them and say, you can't possibly do anything right. Although, I mean, that does seem to be the case in given their track record. But what I'm getting at is that they should be able to stand in there as a trustee, as a public representative, and listen to their constituents. That's all they need to do.
Yeah.
That's all they need to do. And if you're a speaker on a speaker's list, guess what? You get to choose your own topic. So what I always found interesting is just how arrogant they are to say, no, 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 we know what you should be speaking on, and we're going to tell you what you should be speaking on. And if you get off track on what you say you should be speaking on, we're going to tell you what you should be speaking on.
Yeah.
Like, what is a speaker's list anyways?
Yeah.
I told you what my topic is. Let me speak.
Yeah.
But they can't stand there. They can't take it.
Well, because it goes against everything they believe in, and these activists have stolen so much ground in advancing this agenda that they probably see it crumbling all around them, and they're panicking within the school boards as well, and they felt very haughty and secure in their positions to continue to be able to violate the policies and the Education Act. And God bless Linda Quinn, who's quietly on the side there, trying to advocate for you guys as one of the only school board trustees taking a stand. And this is another reason why, if they had a majority, they would have shut down the chair. It would have been opposed, and you would have been able to continue to finish your speech.
Yeah, and well, like even how Trustee Nelson was saying, you need a seconder. You don't even need to have 6 or 8 on the board, but you do need a few people there, a remnant, shall we call it, who actually are going to stand up for the parents and the kids. And God bless Linda Chin for what she does, because she has taken it so bad from those trustees bullying her. And maybe we'll talk about Ron LeClaire and what he's like, but what they have done and how they have treated her and gone after her legally, because she's really truly trying to represent for the parents and for the kids. She actually cares. The other trustees, at least 8 of them, some of them at times, I would say some of them have actually been helpful to us. There's some stories around that as well, but in general, it's been her, Nancy Armstrong, who tends to be quiet. She's taking we'll call it a different strategy, but I believe they need to be outspoken like Linda is. And yeah, I'm very thankful for her and for how bold she is on the board, despite all the opposition that she's surrounded by.
Right. Yeah. And there's a school board trustee like that on pretty much every board. We had Heather Moss at the Chilliwack School Board, who was having legal actions by the board against her for speaking out and speaking facts, speaking scientific facts, saying what was going on. And okay, so now I'm going to get to the next clip, please, Terenzia. And just to set it up, you're addressing the Education Act and the point of speakers, and you and the other speakers point out that the trustees are not following the act and focusing on student achievement, fulfilling fiscal responsibilities, and upholding public confidence. And in this clip, we're going to witness just how things are when activists are running the school board meetings. And I'm going to ask our viewers to listen carefully to what school trustee Ron LeClaire has to say as he responds to Jay's reasonable comments and legitimate concerns, as Jay addresses the significant deficit and decline in enrollment. Okay, let's play that clip.
But in 2022 and 2023, it's up 7.3%, 12 times as fast, record level, called an explosion of population. Some might say reckless, but that's what's happening. So, but the GECDSB enrollment is clearly not tracking with the trend. And so in a CBC article, it reads, in May, staff warned trustees the deficit of the 23-24 school year was nearly 9 million, citing declining enrollment as well as inflationary pressures are among the reasons for the deficit. Now, Ontario independent schools, worth commenting on, are growing. So there's a few schools, I don't know if you mind me mentioning them. If you don't want me to, that's fine. What's that?
You have 1 minute,
That's
so
fine.
I would not.
Yeah, okay.
waste
Well,
my
there's a
time
couple
on-
Christian schools. They're growing, they're hiring, they're adding tech wings, and we'll just leave it at that. But it's a growing concern here because the double-mindedness of our government and how they're trying to politicize our school system is a problem, and that's why people are removing. So you have to objectively consider all of what you can do better. Canceling the speakers list won't help. More DEI and censuses won't help. Promoting CRT is a dead end. Pushing pride is counterproductive. And alienating people of faith clearly hasn't helped.
Point of order, those are all protected grounds under the Ontario Human Rights Code, and he should not be speaking about the pride, or he should not be speaking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Madam Chair.
Hopefully, Trustee Leclerc did not steal all my time.
No, you have 30 seconds.
But he took
Finish.
30 of it.
Point of order. Point of order.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'm challenging
Yes.
your ruling. You are
Go
not
ahead.
permitted to allow a speaker
I didn't
to speak
actually
about
hear
issues.
anything contrary, but
He indicated that our board should not be involved in DEI or pride.
Can I finish?
So those are in direct contravention of the Ontario Human Rights Code. They are also issues that are mandated by the board, by the province of Ontario and the Ministry of Education. You, Madam Chair, you have to rule him out of order.
Well, I'm done with that section anyways. Can we move on?
No, we can't.
No,
Well, I know you don't want me to, but Madam Chair, if you don't mind.
Madam
can I
Chair,
finish?
Madam Chair, I'm
I've
challenging.
got 3 sentences
Make
left.
a decision.
I've got 3 sentences. That worked last time.
I've been challenged, so therefore I will let the vice chair take care of the challenge, since it's me that's being challenged.
I hope I get this right. There's a challenge to the chair, and we are to determine whether or not the speaker is out of order. The speaker who has given, the chair is, yeah. So the person who has brought the challenge forward has given the reasons for the order. Will the ruling of the chair be sustained? All those in favor of the ruling of the chair, which is the speaker may finish the 30 seconds he's got, can that be sustained? All those in favor of sustaining the rule of the chair? All those opposed to the ruling of the chair? And that is carried. Thank you for speaking. I will give you the chair back.
No. He's up.
Point of order. Chair, please have him removed.
The speaker's list is complete. You've made a decision. We're moving on to the next item on our schedule. That is, well, if it's terrible, then when we have organization, you can do something about it.
Okay, there you go again, like just shaking your head as, to how they're conducting themselves at these meetings, Jay. I give you and the team so much credit for sticking in there and going up and taking it in the chin time after time. But it is having success. Like, can you tell us the really good news that happened yesterday? First of all, let's bring up Ron LeClair's photo for a minute. I was looking into him the other day, and I noticed that he was formerly a police officer in the Windsor Police Service, and I thought, boy, does he ever he just doesn't have the professionalism or the self-control in these type of meetings to have a civil conversation. So thanks for bringing that up. But this is the individual that was losing it and saying, point of order, point of order. You can't talk about DEI. Well, DEI and pride are not in the Human Rights Code. I mean, he needs to have an education. And so anyways, let's talk about this for a minute. Let's start with the good news. Let's just what we just
So
learned.
yesterday we came to light that Ron LeClair in their public board meeting yesterday, so their actual regular board meeting where it's all of the trustees and administration, etc., that they actually motioned to approve his resignation. So he actually tabled his resignation, sent his letter in. They said on the 15th, the day before we made our Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario application for them denying me to speak on faith in GECDSB. So the day before, so I'm just saying God's timing is amazing, and He's got a sense of humor.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just gotta laugh this stuff off because it's just the way these people are. Because God goes before us, He goes with us, and we have nothing to fear. So yeah, he tabled his resignation on the 15th. The request was to make it effective September 30th. The meeting yesterday obviously was October 21st, and that's when they motioned and approved his resignation. But he is one who has been on that board for a long time, and Gail expressed her sadness for him leaving. But he's also one, if you watch in some of these meetings, he's giving her signs across the room on how to run the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the only male trustee on that board. Now he's gone. But it's just interesting how that all played out. Now, that is the second resignation since we've been opposing them. The first was Sarah Sipkar on November 4th of 2024. She was the one who wrote RAD 65, Gender Expression and Gender Identity in Schools. And she's the one who actually was proud of saying, we're going to keep secrets from parents no matter the age of the child regarding their pronouns or name or their gender that they may want to change. So she resigned, and that was shortly after with Selena. We had done sent a flyer around, letting people know around where the trustee lives this is what they support. So if you have any feedback, by all means, you should be aware of what this trustee is supporting. And these are pornographic books for minors, age inappropriate. And you can hear when we, in the last clip too, where as soon as I say age inappropriate, they trigger. They are canceling you immediately. But anyway, in that meeting, what you didn't see too, as you mentioned, he's a police officer, retired. They at one point they had asked that they bring up security into the room because they didn't feel safe, right? So a very overused and abused word. This idea that the only thing that's not safe in there again is your pride and your ego and your stupid ideas, frankly. And so they brought up one, then two security guards, and I made friends with them, to tell you the truth. After one of my speeches, one of them got a laugh out of when I say DEI, they would call it diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I say it's discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. So I said that right in their meeting, and you can see off my shoulder the security guard was laughing. So after the meeting, I went up to him and said, "Hey, man, you're laughing during my speech?" He's like, "Yeah, no, I just thought it was funny." He said, "I'm on your side."
Oh yeah.
So then later on, Ron LeClair, what you didn't see was off camera, there are two police officers in that room. So they are in uniform acting as security, right? So off duty, but in uniform. To me, I find that a little bit strange. Obviously, they're there to make a presence known in the room. Again, there's never been any threats, any violence, any danger, any risk to any of them in any real way. That's why they moved the podium. It used to be on the side of the room. They moved it to the back in the gallery. They were going to put up a wall at one point between the gallery and them. oh, you should have heard some of the proposals that they were floating. Like, man, you people are so
Deranged.
fragile. Anyway,
Yeah.
so what happened was he actually then they had requested the police be in the room, but beforehand we saw him talking in the hallway, prepping the police officers. So when he got really upset, when I was calling them out on the CRT, the DEI, the Pride, and you could see right when I said and alienating people of faith, as soon as I did that, he called point of order immediately. This is a worldview war. Like without a question, we know that we battle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and powers of darkness. That is happening in that room. And so when he got all upset, that was, I think that's what he wanted. He wanted me drug out of there in cuffs. It would have done him no greater pleasure than to see me, basically manhandled by those police officers. But they stayed on the wall. I finished my speech. You couldn't hear it, but when I was off mic, I was speaking with my outside voice, and I made it known. I finished my speech, and that's why he got so upset, is because I finished my speech, and that's when he called for me to have me removed from the room. And all I did was finish my speech. And this is how weak they are in their ability to actually, and incompetent, frankly, to be trustees.
Right.
And but what also, like you said, he's a police officer. You should understand this, what the charter actually stands for: freedom of expression, freedom of speech, as it's more commonly known. But that in the Ontario Human Rights Code, and I actually went after and I spoke to them about this. I'm like, clearly you don't even understand the Ontario Human Rights Code either. At least 7 times in there is in that guide, it mentions upholding freedom of speech. And he has said in this room, we have this quote. He has said in this room, there is no freedom of speech. He has said this.
Yeah.
So this is what we're dealing with.
Jay, I don't know if it's coincidence that he stepped down or if the date of his stepping down is actually the official date, or maybe it came after the 16th. But for myself and Action for Canada, I'm always telling our viewers every time we're having the Empower Hours, I'm expressing, and as often as I can, to say, look, in the background, we're working strategically and very hard to come up with ways to push back that won't only affect one district, it'll affect everyone in Canada. And there needs to be a precedent on this, because they've been, as I said earlier, running roughshod against the Human Rights Code, like the LGBTQ is the only one on the face of the earth that exists anymore, and their rights trump everybody else's, and it's a lie from the pit of hell. This is a spiritual battle, and this is a sexual deviancy that is in violation of our biblical standards that uphold this nation, and we need to get back to that biblical standard. And I would say that this is a totalitarian school board, and I would say that he was the running king who has now been dethroned. And it's going to be interesting what the human rights complaint outcome will be.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And it is pretty amazing. And I've said this to people too, because people often ask, I guess what I'm saying is amazing is how God works. And when we step out in faith, that's when God often he meets us there on the battlefield. So a lot of times they ask me, they said, why do you bother when you go to the school board? They're just cutting your mic off. They want to throw you out of there. They hate you. And I said, that's exactly the reason why we need to be in there, because they hate me, but they hate parents and kids as far as I'm concerned. And who's speaking on their behalf? If we don't, who's going to? I just can't expect somebody else to. As a Christian, I believe it's our duty, it's our obligation to go and do that. And there's a lot of people like yourself, Tanya. There's a lot of, and I watched, your video when you were in DC, and you said there was the one lone Irishman who was there with you. But we do need men to step up and to speak. And that is needed in such a desperate way, because we definitely suffer for a lack of leadership, male leadership in Canada. And I'm great. I've stood by mama bears, and you know about Selena and Beth and just the strong advocates they are, and others. And when we did the Charlie Kirk vigil here in Windsor, if you want to look at that up too, there's some more things to read, I guess, but it went very well. But it was these women who called me and they said, will you help? Will you help organize? Will you help to speak? Will you help MC? And I wanted to speak on behalf of Charlie, but the point being is that, women want the men to stand up and to speak.
Absolutely.
So I think it's very important that we do that, and also to train up to the pastors as well. They have a hard job, but at the same time, I think we have a responsibility. If we see that our pastors are not speaking the truth from the pulpit, say something. Say something. It doesn't not disrespectfully. Of course, you have to respect their authority. They are your spiritual leader. You're accountable to them, but they also they benefit from having that feedback, saying, hey, these are real issues that we are facing right now in real time in the world we live in, and whether it's at school, at work, wherever. And we need pastors to stay it from the pulpit. It needs to be said. And it's not being said in a lot of places.
No, and this is exactly right on. And when I need those statements for the fire in the belly, and you've just said it, Jay, to compel our men to get on the front line with us, because women have been saying that for years. Like when I started 10 years ago, we were saying, where are the men? Well, the Communist Manifesto is to emasculate men. So they started that, what was it, written back in the 1940s or something, the Communist Manifesto. And it was to get women in the workplace, the government to, have access to our kids through the education system. And it's all playing out right in front of us. And then as pastors as well, because we've been encouraging men, like get up here, get on the front line. You are the headship of the family, and pastors are, they're gifted by God to lead, but they are also going to be when they stand before the Lord, they're going to be judged more harshly than others. And it says that in scripture, because they're in charge of their flock and they can't allow them to be led astray. And so they've got to be speaking the truth from a biblical standpoint. And then finally in Revelations, when it talks about, who's going to hell, the list starts with it, it talks about, fornicators and all of this, but it starts with cowards. And if you're cowardly because you're afraid of what the LGBTQ radical mob is going to say about you, then you've already lost. You may as well step down from the pulpit, because we need people courageously up there calling out and being uncompromising to the word of God. And in time, those people that are lost in their sin will be saved as well. And, we're experiencing that. We're seeing that people who have been lost and indoctrinated into this horrible agenda that's causing them so much harm, that they're coming, it's not without real hardship by the time they get into their 20s and realize they've been deceived, for instance. Okay, so we're coming to the top of the hour. So let's play the final clip on the RAD 65. Okay, let's do that now.
All right, good evening. I'm Jeremy Pelko. I'll be speaking on public consultation. The presumption with solicited input, comments, complaints, or feedback of any kind is that the requester will seriously review the responses, sincerely consider them, discuss how they may be used and/or addressed, then take appropriate action. It is my objective assertion that the majority of the trustees on the GECDSB, this board, choose to ignore the public. This is quite ironic and mind-blowing, considering you have no position as trustees without public consultation and feedback. It is the very foundation of becoming and serving as a public trustee. My observations and experiences with this board and administration have been that only certain preferred feedback is seriously reviewed, sincerely considered, and then action taken. Given the limited time constraint and policy topic restrictions, I'll focus on one recent example. This is arguably one of the most egregious examples as it pertains to Regulation RAD 65, Gender Identity and Gender Expression in Schools. The public consultation portal opened February 10th and closed February 24th. The board and administration only very subjectively, broadly, and vaguely mentioned their opinion that there is overall public support. Despite many requests to present or share the data to back these claims, none was provided. A $275 FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request, was required to get this data. If you are so confident in your position, then one would expect the board to happily and openly, with full transparency and analytical clarity, publicly present this data to explain and justify your conclusions. According to administration, there is strong support and only, quote, some opposition. According to the board, there was no strong opposition because, and I quote, "That's not the feedback that I've certainly received in phone calls, emails, messages, all the different kinds of ways that people have reached out to me." If the trustees and administration would have used the data from the public consultation portal as intended, they would have had to change their conclusions on public support for RAD 65, because in reality, the data indicates the opposite to their apparently biased, subjective comments, and decisively so. Of the 400 responses provided through the FOIA request, 140 were for and 260 were against. In other words, a strong majority of 2/3 do not support RAD 65 as written. Many were extremely clear and specific that boys are boys, girls are girls, and they are to remain separate in their spaces and sports for their privacy, safety, and overall physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Of particular interest is the data trend that developed over the mere 2 weeks this regulation portal was open. Initial responses were leaning to be for this gender-obsessed regulation, perhaps because those supporting it were already aware of this portal opening ahead of the general public. In any case, within days, the script flipped. By February 19th, the response curves intersected at 124 counts. From that point on, the for count only gained another 16 responses, whereas the against count quickly rose to gain another 136 responses, 6 times more before the portal closed. Projecting this data trend out as if the public consultation portal remained open for another 2 weeks or even a total of 2 months, the result of what was obviously a linear trend line would have been 8 or 9 out of 10 against RAD 65. This isn't some opposition, this is extremely strong opposition. Was the board unwilling and or incapable of doing the work to report accurately on the public feedback that is overwhelmingly against RAD 65? Or is the board perhaps so severely biased that not only did they conceal this data and these results, but with utter contempt and vicious dismissal of the public, they ignorantly and arrogantly forged ahead with RAD 65? It seems irrefutable that this board does not care about their constituents as they willfully ignore the best interests of parents and children, the consenting authority, and the students, who do not want secrets kept from parents, nor gender-confused boys or girls forcing their will on other kids who just want to go to school and not be embroiled in adults using them for their selfish ambitions and political agendas. You've been caught in corruption and or incompetence. What will you do? Repeal RAD 65 as the public consultation demands, or continue down this dark road of destruction that attempts to lay waste our youngest generations by robbing innocence from children and destroying their minds, bodies, hearts, and souls while attempting to usurp the rightful parental authority from their father and mother. May God have mercy and give us grace to turn to Him in this desperate hour of need for our children and parents.
Thank you, Mr. Pelko. Any questions of clarification? No? Thank you very much. Have a good day.
I'd be happy to share my analysis with you if you guys want to compare notes.
No, thank you.
So there we go. I had left it, our viewers may not have heard that, but you had stated I'd be happy to share my analysis with you. And so here you have given them all of the evidence and information to prove and show that the majority of the people that voted for them do not appreciate this policy, do not agree with it, and that they want it rescinded. And yet I can imagine if you give me an update that they've moved forward, and it's probably still stands today. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what happened was after that there was a motion to defer it, so it actually got pushed to this year.
Okay.
So I don't know that it's actually been approved just yet. I was looking for it, and so something to check on in terms of the policy committee because they had to revise it. There were a number of revisions that were requested, and so they actually sent it back to committee. And we thought, wow, interesting. But there was a new trustee who raised some points from his perspective as to why it should go back, and they actually voted for it to be returned to committee.
Mm-hmm.
But the overall criticism that I was giving was they claimed support. We said, show us the data. They wouldn't show us the data. So then we said, give us the data. We got the data, looked at 400 responses and said, even in the 2 weeks that this portal was open, 2/3 are against, a strong majority are against what you're doing. Now, initially, like I said, when I was mentioning those curves crossing, that was because I think some of the people who were involved in the committee, some people who were perhaps advising on the committee who were aware of what was happening, they put in their feedback quickly. So there was an initial spike in the data on the for side, but then quickly, once it got on our radar and we made people aware, and things that I think through Action for Canada, things that were going on in terms of making people aware of this, then all of a sudden it was against. And it was, like I mentioned, it was a linear trend. And if you actually projected this out for another 2 weeks, month, and on, it would have been 8 or 9 out of 10 would have been against this.
Yes.
So it's something that to call somebody out as a liar is a serious thing. But they clearly didn't look at the data. I can say that that much. And they had no intention to, because I think they knew really truly what the data said. And when I offered it off camera, like you said, I said, would you like me to share my analysis with you? And they said, no, thank you. It's like they
Yeah.
don't want to see it, they don't want to hear it, and they just don't care. And that's why at the end of some of my speeches, I said, if this board won't change their ways, take your children and run from this woke school board
Yeah,
and
exactly.
run for their lives, because they have no shame in destroying your children, mind, heart, body, and soul. They are literally after them. When they say they're coming for your kids, believe them. It is not a joke. It's true. They are. And if you go back to, like, I think you had mentioned, when you were in your DC trip, go back to Alfred Kinsey, like 48, and then fast forward to 09, Ben Levine, 2015, Kathleen Wynne in Ontario, and then even Doug Ford now, who said, I'll repeal that. Yeah. No. A year later, he put it in. Now it's worse than ever. And since 2017, he spent $500 million on DEI in Ontario. And he calls himself some kind of a conservative.
No,
Like,
he's a fraud.
again, yeah, 100%. I mean, you want to talk about a wolf in sheep's clothing. If you're supporting the PC party and you're a Christian, give your head a shake, with all due respect. Give your head a shake and look at the data, look at the facts and the evidence of what this man stands for. And it's awful. It is absolutely atrocious what he is doing. It is on his watch.
Yeah.
And anybody who supports him on his watch, you're complicit in this. You are complicit in it. And we need to do something better than this. And there are ways, things that we can do and that we will do. And, this action, against the school board is one of them, but there's more. And yeah, just people need to understand the history behind this and what's really going on. And even if you go back even further, and how this plays into Margaret Sanger, eugenics. That's a whole other topic. I know we can't get into it, but the whole idea being there that when these kids go out and they experiment as they're taught in these woke schools, what are they going to tell that young girl who gets pregnant? Go abort your child. Go murder your son or your daughter.
Yeah.
So this is a extremely satanic overall attack on children. And people shouldn't take it lightly. They shouldn't try to downplay that. That is what it is. Now, I'm not saying they're all Satan worshipers, but some of them don't understand even what they're a part of, I believe. And that's why when we speak, I do want to speak, with love and graciously, because some people are ignorant to the fact of what is actually going on the whole. But like what you're doing and what we're talking about today and why we went to the school board, that's why we do it, is so that people can hear the truth and understand it.
Right. Yeah. And that's why we've been really focused this year on lobbying government. And we've said this is an opportunity to educate, because a lot of them, get so caught up with what they think is this social justice, and they think they're doing a good thing, but they haven't read and researched the material. And with Alfred Kinsey, when his research was put forward, it was Hugh Hefner that then funded it to go into the education system, and Margaret Sanger and the other woman, I can't remember her name right now, from Planned Parenthood, and it all worked together because, as you mentioned, these kids, you're causing them to be sexually promiscuous, and the next thing you know, they're pregnant, and the abortion business has gone through the roof. It's an industry right now, and it's making Planned Parenthood a lot of money, and what they're doing with these unborn babies is unspeakable and unthinkable. And it is a spiritual battle. It's very dark, and it needs to be overturned. Educating the public is a huge part of that. That's what Action for Canada, has set up this whole system across the nation. I want to encourage people, if you're thinking of becoming an Action for Canada chapter leader, we provide you the resources. Selena, Beth, and Jay have been experts, like just wonderful at writing their own delegations, but we also provide delegations that are, modified so that any chapter leader across the country can use it. When we show up at a chapter, at a school board meeting, because there's all of this fake land acknowledgements, we also break that down spiritually as well. And we say, like, for instance, hi, I'm Tanya Gaw. I'm with Action for Canada, and I thank God and God alone for the ground that I'm standing on. I'm here to talk about, and then we speak about it. And so a couple of the actions, I just want to let people know that back in April or so of last year, you filed the notice of liability against all of the SOGI, against all of the sexualization of our children. And that's critically important for people to know, because they say, oh, the notice of liability, they're ineffective, they're not a legal document. They are a warning that we can go back and prove that we said there was measurable harm happening to children that they were participating in. And if they chose to ignore it and not change their ways, then when the legal actions are unfolding, they could be held personally liable. We don't know what school board trustee is going to get caught up in this. Just like Ron LeClaire, who, maybe is a little sorry that he has felt so emboldened to speak so freely and discriminate against Christians on this school board. And then I'll just quickly share my screen as well. So what Jay was talking about and what we try to do is we work together with the chapter leaders, and they like, oh my goodness, RAD 65 is coming through and we need to bring this and make this available to the public. So on everybody's own social networks and their networks within the community, they're advising people to respond. And then we give you a little bit of a lowdown on what the concern is. And then we actually provide a drafted letter that you can either write your own or copy and paste this directly into your email. And then you go and copy the emails that we have provided. And our chapter leaders provide us, the instrumental information that we need in order to take the action. And from what I'm hearing, Jay, this is another celebration, because you're telling me that RAD 65 hasn't been officially approved yet, and it better not, because to me, this is not, it's criminal activity in what they're, and they're harming children.
Yeah. So like I said, I have to look, and I was trying to, follow along with the agenda and that sort of thing to see where it was actually at. But in any case, we'll definitely see. As far as it being stopped, to me, it's a runaway train as far as I'm concerned at this point, with the amount of support that it has on that board, unfortunately. It's not that it can't be opposed, that we shouldn't bring awareness to it, and we should. But the fact is that that board is full of trustees who believe it is the right thing to do. And so it's not in a good position overall. They're actually trying to make it tighter, I think, in terms of legally is what I think they're actually trying to do.
Okay, well,
but we'll see.
Yeah, and I want you to give me an update on that. But what I want to let our viewers know as well is that I can't go into the details of it, but in Ontario, we're working on something else in the background. And we are proving that there is measurable harm to children. And it's undeniable. Parents are reporting it across the country. Doug Ford is ignoring it. Calandra is ignoring it. He's positioning things to take away parental rights by the looks of it, and even eliminate school boards in Ontario. So we're watchful of all of these things. There's a lot of great people. Our other former chapter leader who became a school board in Ontario as well, she's doing phenomenal work on her school board and getting the flags taken down, providing us, some information on what the government is doing there. And so we're going to continue to work, and we're going to take and claim back the ground that the enemy has stolen. Like we said, it's been decades in the making, Jay. You are an amazing man of God. You are an amazing man on the front line. We so appreciate you. I give a shout out to Beth and Selena as well for the work that you guys are doing. You are a fine example to our viewers today on what can be accomplished within your own community, but how much more could be accomplished if people would actually show up to vote and help good people like you get elected. Now, I say that, Jay, because I'm wondering, you're in Ron LeClaire's district, so would you consider running as school board trustee? That would be gold.
No, I definitely considered it, and how welcoming they might be, or how much they might want me to be there. Probably not so much, but would I be willing to do it? Do I have any fear or hesitation or reservation about running? No. I think that people need to understand, like, the actual public education system goes back to the church. It goes back to Catholics and Protestants in Quebec and Ontario establishing public education. And the idea of trustees that came along later. It's not their idea.
No.
We've given away another institution, and we need to take it back, or in some way counter it. And that's, if you don't mind me, if I could mention cheerfully and a little bit.
You have an organization that you have founded.
So I got to the point where, because I was realizing where the school board was at and saying, you need to get your kids out. If they're not going to change, you need to get your kids out. And so then I didn't want to just leave parents with well, what do I do with them? If we homeschooling, yes, like like you have mentioned, that's obviously an option. But then as the kids get older, or the subject matter may not be in the, we'll say, in the parents' wheelhouse, that they may need help. So there are Christian private schools that they can attend. Now in Ontario, there is 0% funding for those schools, which maybe is a good thing because then they can't get their hooks in you. But the point being is that there are Christian private schools. Yes, there can be a financial hurdle to that, but that's why one of the purposes of Cheerfully is that we provide tuition aid to
Oh,
parents desiring to enroll their kids in Christian private
yeah.
schools. And so our other purpose is advancement of education, of religion. So it's advancement of education, advancement of religion, Christian,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and then as well as relief of poverty, knowing if somebody's in a stuck situation, single mom, out of town, whatever, we can help her get through, get connected with the
Mm-hmm.
church.
Oh, I
But
love it.
to what we're talking about here, advancement of education is for Christian private schools to help the parents enroll their kids, keep their kids enrolled, and if we have the funding to help them with capital projects to help them grow those schools. Because I think in BC there are schools up 8 to 900 students, but here in Ontario, I'm seeing them, we'll say, in the range of 80 to 300, maybe 500 for but they struggle, and it's like, who's giving and how much can these parents actually afford and
Yeah.
manage, and times are tough. So
Yeah.
that's what Cheerfully is. It's at so Cheerfully, CHEERFULLY.ca, and go have a look. Email me at j@cheerfully.ca and let me know if you're in the area and you need help.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're here for.
That's awesome, Jay. I love it. I commend you for all the work that you're doing. You work a full-time job as well as
Well, what happened was, perhaps the bad thing, in February I was laid off, and I said this is maybe the time to actually start this project and to
oh,
give it
I
a go. So I'm founder and CEO of the not-for-profit. We have applied for charitable status. We'll see
yeah.
what happens with CRA. Yeah,
November
but
4th,
we'll
I
see
think,
what
right?
we'll see how it goes. And
Yeah.
it's for me, I don't mind giving it a shot, and we'll see what happens. And that's a whole other thing, charitable status in Canada for
Mhm.
charities, pro-life charities, Christian charities. But yeah,
Yeah,
in any case,
mhm. We've been
go ahead,
speaking out
sorry.
against that as well. In November 4th, I think they're going to table the budget and see if they actually still have that buried in there. I think it'd be a big, big mistake, but these globalists don't seem to care about the little people or the majority. So
I
we'll
think
see how that goes.
I think kind of like what happened during COVID Clown World. They're going to see how far they can go with it, back
Hmm.
off, try to get churches to go along, to get along, to comply with them, to just sort of tamp down their
Hmm.
um, pro-life, anti-abortion, and traditional definition of marriage, and all the rest of it, biblical sexuality, in order for them to keep their charitable status. And so there may be a time where churches are going to have to make some hard decisions about what they're going to do. But I don't, like you say, I think it'd be a very extreme for them to do that. But I wouldn't put it by
Awesome.
them not trying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, Jay, thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight. I'm really hoping,
appreciate
I
it.
know it. People can't be watching this. They can't be viewing this and not have a fire in their belly to take some sort of action and get involved. And so we want to keep that fire lit. So join Action for Canada. Reach out to us. If you can't be a chapter leader, you might want to assist. If you're an accountant, you could be the treasurer. There's all sorts of gifts and talents you have. You could be the door greeter. We love door greeters because, people coming to our meetings may be a little apprehensive, and you could be so welcoming. You all have gifts and talents to offer, and we'd love to be working together with you. And yeah, so just God bless you, Jay, in the work that you continue to do.
God bless you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that was an awesome show tonight. I hope that you will give us a thumbs up when the Empower comes out. Remember that every week we are always including last week's Empower Hour with the next week's introduction to who the guest will be. So please make sure that you view it. Take the time to just give us a thumbs up and share it. We're being so censored. We don't understand where it's coming from, but we know that our work is very, very important, and we're having a real impact. This little Gideon's army. God can't censor us because you know what? I love it. I go on Talk Truth and they go into 8.5 million homes, and they're on Daystar Television. So if you have never heard of Talk Truth with Corey and Alan Huntsberger, I want to give them a little plug right now too, because they've been so good to me. It's so good to me being able to come on the show and make sure that millions of Canadians know about what's happening in our school systems, our national security risks, and things like that. All right, next week's guest and I'm thinking we're going to have a full house. If you haven't been paying attention to what's going on with precious metals, we've been talking for years and years trying to, again, we don't provide financial advice, but we do help to educate you that the fiat system is incredibly unstable. Silver has been up to, I haven't checked it in the last couple of days, but it was up to $70+. And just a month ago, what was it? A couple of months ago, it was at $50. And it is projected to reach triple digits. So if you think, I've missed the boat, it's too late to get in. No, you haven't. And when you come on the show next week and join us, they're actually saying compared to in the 1980s, what it would cost for a Big Mac and, to have a good suit and a car, if you were to look at that for an ounce of silver, I think it was $12 an ounce, compared to now in the cost of living, they're saying that silver would be up around $500. I heard 300 to 350, but I think that was the US price. So we don't know. We don't know where it's going to go. But if you have benefited from Action for Canada providing you this information, then we as well would ask that you think about us now and maybe make an extra donation, because we're not a charitable organization. And so businesses want their tax exemptions. People want to have their tax exemption at the end of the year. And I'm like, you got to pick your priorities. Action for Canada is doing phenomenal work, and we need some big donors because there is so much more that we could be doing. But it is, I want to call it the grassroots, where it's $10, $20, $15, $100, $1,000 once in a while. And we just thank you from the bottom of our heart. We can't thank you enough for that. And we are going to continue doing the grinding good work, no matter what the income is coming in. But we really need to keep this organization going on and the lights on. So come and join us next week. Steve Merrill also, when you order through Steve, and it's on our homepage. If you're thinking, yeah, right now, man, I've been thinking of ordering silver, I better get in on this, then just go to our homepage and click on the link, please, because Steve gives our members the very best price and a little extra bonus. So read about it on the webpage. All right, the verses for tonight, which I think are very, very appropriate, are from Deuteronomy 6:6-7. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. You are always supposed to be instilling good morals into your children, good biblical principles, to be honest, to be caring, to honor their father and mother, to be a good friend, to pray for people. It's just absolutely amazing to be honest, to have integrity. Now, you can see in other countries like the Islamic nations, so many of these children are being indoctrinated into violence, and the outcome is violence. And so there is, other countries that are communists. You see what they're doing to our children with this Marxist agenda. And what is the outcome? Little Marxist soldiers are marching out of our schools. And so if we want to change this, we need to get back to the Bible and biblical principles. So the next verse is from Proverbs 22:6. I love this one. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And then finally, in closing, it is a word to the fathers. Do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. And fathers, the best gift you can give your children is to love your wives and treat them well with respect. Marriage is hard, and there's going to be those tough times that you have to navigate it through, but it's those times where people are married for 60 to 70 years, where they're celebrating those kind of anniversaries. But your kids are watching you. And if you're on your face buried in your cell phone all the time while they're playing or talking to you, that's what they're going to come to know. Look them in the eyes. Put your cell phones down. Take away their cell phones. Give them a flip phone. Do them a favor. There's so many words, little words of wisdom or advice I could give you right now, but that'll be for another day and another show. So for now, I look forward to seeing you next week. God bless you, and God bless Canada.
In times of financial uncertainty, securing your wealth is more important than ever. With inflation, market instability, and economic challenges, many Canadians are turning to one timeless strategy: precious metals. Gold and silver have historically retained their value, offering a hedge against economic turmoil and a safeguard for your assets. If you're looking to invest, there's good news for members of Action for Canada. We're proud to announce our partnership with Steve Merrill of Sun City Silver. Steve is not only a friend of the Freedom Movement, but he's also offering Action for Canada members exclusive access to some of the best pricing in Canada. Thanks to his extensive client base and affiliation with Silver Gold Bull, you can now secure your precious metals at incredible rates. Silver Gold Bull is a trusted Canadian leader with live pricing available 24/7 and nearly 400,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot. When you purchase through Steve, you're not only investing in your future, you're also supporting the Freedom Movement, as a percentage of each sale helps support Action for Canada. Plus, there's a bonus. If you place an order of $5,000 or more, you'll receive a 1-ounce pure silver bullet, a unique and valuable addition to your collection. And if you refer someone who places a $5,000 order, you'll get another silver bullet as a thank you. To get started, visit actionforcanada.com/purchasing-precious-metals/. Remember, your decisions are your own, and we recommend doing your own research before making any investment. But with Steve Merrill's guidance and our partnership, you'll be on the right path to securing your future. Secure your assets, protect your future, support the movement. Visit us today to learn more.
Chapters across the nation. We are going to be in every town and every city, and we are going to build communities within these communities of like-minded people who are actually going to care for one another again and love on each other and give each other the help when they're down. We are going to use the teams and the people that build within chapters to support our businesses. The government's actions are completely 100% unlawful. Judgment will again be found on justice, and those with virtuous hearts will pursue it. You have a virtuous heart if you are here today pursuing freedom and righteousness. And then verse 23 comes along with a promise. God says he will turn the sins of evil people back on them. He will destroy them for their sins. I take great comfort in that because I serve a mighty living God who has allowed us to go through this season of discomfort because we as a nation had turned our backs on him and we need to get right. So I am just going to thank you so much. I'm going to say God bless you and God